Hey, how you feeling? How you doing today? Just a short video, short message I want to deliver to a teenager like me who occasionally follows people who might talk about some really crazy stuff like David Goggins and think of it as something, think about their advice as practicable, yet it is not that practicable, in fact. So I'm not going to criticize any of those folks who are influencers among this self-improvement realm. They're actually doing a great job at influencing us teenagers. Yet the problem is not so much in the influences themselves as within us. So I just want to say, don't pay attention to that strange sound in the background. It's a wild wind out there currently. So yeah, it might sound scary and weird, but just keep in mind that's just the wind. Yeah, back to our topic. So the topic is more about ourselves, the followers of those influences. So an influencer like Huberman, for instance, might tell you that you should completely get rid of carbohydrates in your diet. Well, how would you interpret that? Like, at a first glance, we might interpret this message as get rid of carbohydrates completely, or get rid of bread, for instance, completely. But the thing is, these carbohydrates are essential for our body and for our existence generally. So, what I mean by that is that the influencer might say something which is true per se. However, we have this propensity in our mind, or a distortion of some kind, which makes these statements too extreme. So if Huberman said that, yeah, you should avoid using carbohydrates, not using, actually consuming carbohydrates, our brain interprets that as get rid of carbohydrates. It just gets the whole statement to its maximum, or rather extreme state. Or someone might say, I don't know, start running for 1 hour each day, and it will decrease your chance of becoming, I don't know, it diminishes your percentage rate of, or it diminishes your chance to get a heart disease or something along these lines. Yeah, someone might tell you that. But okay, you got that information. So why not to delve deeper into that? Because okay, one person said that. Well, that's only one person. What the other person thinks about that. And you just start to research and understand that not all the things are real. Like, not all the things are what they are. So, keep your attention here and now. It's just a plane going on or flying by, so yeah. And teenagers, of course, who are the main populace of websites like YouTube and Instagram, are an easy pie for influencers who basically deliver the truth and deliver it in the extreme form somewhat. So you might perhaps have noticed yourself that many of those videos contain these large letters which really attract you, and those previews with something attractive, something gratifying. All of those attributes are made to attract you. But that does not mean that the information which the video or some publication contains is real or is practicable. So be careful with that. And for instance, the ideology of David Goggins is not bad at all. It's true that suffering is a great way to bring happiness into your life. We have to suffer to some extent, as men especially. If we just look into one of the chapters from The Way of the Superior Man, which you probably have read or heard about, in the section of The Man's Way, there is a chapter called Lean Just Beyond Your Edge. What it says is that each and every man has to somehow lean just beyond his edge. That means take a risk more frequently. And David Deida, author of this book, says that a man has to lean just beyond his edge, yet he does not have to stagnate happily in his zone of comfort, nor he has to lean too far from his edge. So a man does not need to go too beyond his edge, stressing himself unnecessarily. He just have to lean a little bit beyond his edge, and that's all. So you just experience a sufficient amount of stress and become mentally tougher, as the main purpose of David Goggins' ideology is to become mentally tough and thus be enduring. And with this endurance comes the happiness into your life. So, yeah, we might interpret everything to the extremes. We might understand everything, but not in the way they really are. So, what I recommend you doing is watch these videos much more rarely, probably, because most people, perhaps even you, have been in this journey of self-improvement for a long while. Yeah, at least for 6 months. And you have probably developed these practices, habits, more precisely, which make your life a lot more better and more productive. So, as you develop these habits, you don't need anymore watching those influences. You right now have the right tools for improving your life, right? And of course, there are still plenty of other habits you might want to entrench, but why not to first, get more and more acquainted with your habits, which you have, and perhaps bring in some innovations into them, maybe add something from yourself into that practice. Well, by these practices I mean meditation, journaling, exercising. Well, most influences might suggest you doing those, like meditation and journaling, which are almost always, not almost, actually always harmless. So what they tell about journaling and meditation has no disinformation and has no harm, basically. But when it comes to exercise, there might be some, again, disinformation about that. Because, for instance, for some while I was just running for 1 hour per week. Yeah. If I'm not wrong, at the end of the week, yeah, on Sunday, I'm going for a running session, and just before recently, not we actually, but I decided to reduce the time and the intensity of this process, because what I was doing, I was just rushing at the extreme and running for hours and hours, which led me to knee pain. Yeah, I thought that, yeah, I'm a David Goggins. I'll run for 1 hour every week and I'll go through that suffering. Yeah, I've gone through that suffering, but it ended up in my knee pain. Yeah, of course, the knee might recoup after all, but in addition to that, this practice actually became distraction for me, because that was not my main purpose at a time. This was not my main task, so I've been putting a lot of effort on doing this practice when I had to put more effort on studying. So my main purpose was studying, but I just took and put the whole effort on physical exercises, and I lost the balance between my side practices and so to say, essential practices. So yeah, you should really take into consideration your current goals when you implement new practices in your life. Yeah, this one is important too, because yeah, you might get a lot of information from podcasts, different influences again, and for this reason I recommend you, if only if you have been long enough in this journey, to stop for a bit consuming information from other influences and just invest inside. Just invest in yourself, ruminate on yourself, understand yourself on a more deeper level, and really understand what you want from life, and really get idea of what is your purpose. I am still in this journey, but at the same time I start to develop some other practices, like rumination on myself, exploration of my mind, of who I am, because you might be on this journey, but you at the same time might not really know who you are and why you exist in this world. Yeah, it is a crucial point, because might be a case that you just don't know why you are on a self-improvement path and what you want from life. So this is another practice you might want to add to your practice list, but it's just my personal preference, so to say. Yeah, and even if you continue on consuming information from those influences, I recommend you just memorizing them, meanwhile not integrating that information into your life. So you just keep that information in mind and do not implement it in your real life. You might also grab a notebook or journal and write everything down, every information you get from those people, into that notebook or journal. And occasionally you might want to go through each note you've taken and think about those notes. And I recommend you writing them in the form of quotes. Like, when we interpret those words we hear from other people, we might interpret it in a bit wrong way, because we're still teenagers. We have this, again, propensity to get everything to extreme and really mess up the whole meaning of the message. I personally do this a lot with the information I get from people, and for this reason I try to reduce time listening to those influences, because it really might make your life a lot more complex, and you will experience more stress as a result. Yeah, so you rewrite those interesting moments as a quote, like word to word what that person said. You write it in the exact same way that the person have said his line or her line. And yeah, just when you go through your notes, you read exactly what that person said. You read exactly the lines of that person, the real idea which he or she had delivered. And in this way, you get a pure information, which is not distorted by our mind, or teenage mind, basically. So yeah, this was everything I want to tell you, my friend. We still have a long way to go as a teenagers. I mean, our brain is not yet developed to 100%, and we might still have a trouble interpreting something around us, even thought we might be a bright people, a bright folks who understand the world better than most of the teenagers. But still, there are some functions rather in our brain which are yet not available to us. So again, let's just wait for until 19 years old perhaps, and gradually we will start to become more adult in our mind and thus interpret everything as it is. So yeah, that's my message. So thank you again for listening. Namaste, as yogis say. Yeah, I hope you have a great day, great life, or a good night, based on your time. So bye bye.